Hi, New Life Church. Welcome to our TRAC Devo for June the 6th as we jump into the book of Psalms. I don't know about you, but I love the book of Psalms. There are so many great passages and so many great verses in the book of Psalms. And I love how the authors of Psalms are just so honest at times. They are honest with their feelings, they're honest with their emotions, with what's going on around them. And yet, in the end, it seems like they always turn back to God and how faithful God is and how good God is and who God is in their lives. So I just love the book of Psalms, and it's so many times in my life that is one of the books that I go to through different seasons and different parts of my journey. I go back to the book of Psalms. And this past week, there were some verses that stuck out to me as I was reading Psalms. And we're going to go to chapter 3. And David writes this not when he's sitting on the throne and everything's going great. He doesn't write this when everybody's supporting him and rallying around him and saying what a great king he is. Actually, this is the exact opposite. He's writing this as he's on the run from his son, Absalom, who's out to get his dad, who's out to kill his dad. So David is writing this not during a great time in his life. He's probably feeling like he's one in a million at this point in time. And he writes these words, and it says this: "O Lord, I have so many enemies." Talk about feeling alone. "So many are against me. So many are saying, God will never rescue you." So David is at this point in time where he's feeling alone. No one's really feeding him any good news. No one's encouraging him. It seems like no one is saying, David, you got this. It's all going to work out for you. It seems like the enemy, the reports, everything that's coming towards David is negative, and is that it's out to destroy him. And yet David doesn't dwell on that as much as he could have. I would have. Maybe you would have too. I don't know. But David pens these next words. He says, "But you, O Lord, are a shield around me." That God was his protection. God was his shield surrounding him. "You are my glory, the one who lifts my head." In the midst of all the bad news, David writes, God, you are the one who lifts my head. I can have a different perspective of what is going on because you lift my head. I cried out to the Lord, and he answered me from his holy mountain. David knew that God not only heard, but God answered his prayers. And that's so great to realize for us today. There are times that we feel alone. There are times when we feel like the enemy is greater than we. There are times that we feel like the reports are never positive. It seems like it's one negative report after the other. But just like David, we need to realize that we can't just dwell on that. That we need to realize that we have a God who is a shield around us. He is our protector. He is for us. He's the one who lifts our head and gives us a different perspective of the situation. And that God answers us. It's not like these phone calls that come and, you call somebody and you really want to talk to them and you get their voice message and you don't even know when they're going to return your phone call. You got to wait till they retrieve the messages. We don't have to wait for God to retrieve our message. We don't even have to leave him a message. God hears and answers our prayers immediately. I love that. I cried out to the Lord and he answered me. God answers us today. But then the next verse I loved, and it says, "I laid down and I slept." Now, I don't think David was just letting us know, yeah, it was time for me to go to bed, so I laid down and I went to bed. I think he's letting us know that he was able to sleep in peace. "I laid down and I slept. Yet I woke up in safety, for the Lord was watching over me. I will not be afraid of 10,000 enemies who surround me on every side." David knew that the enemy was real, but he knew that God was greater, and he knew at that moment that he could lay down in peace. How many of us long for that? Just to be able to lay down in peace, not to be anxious about tomorrow. Not to be anxious about what everybody is saying and the reports everybody's giving us. Not to be anxious about what the enemy is going to do or not going to do. But to be able in the midst of it to realize that God is our shield. God is our glory, and he's the one who lifts our head. That God is the one who hears us. That God is the one who answers. And because of all of that, because that is a fact that does not change, that I can lay down in peace, knowing that God's got my back, knowing that God's got it all under control, knowing that God is for me, that I can lay down, let my mind be at peace, Let my emotions be at peace, that I can lay down secure in the safety of who God is in my life. And you know what? Actually, if we go over to chapter 4, he writes again, the very last verse of chapter 4, in peace I will lie down and sleep, for you alone, O Lord, will keep me safe. Again, I don't think he's just letting us know that he's taking a nap or that it's time to go to bed. I think he's making a point that God gives peace even in the midst of situations that are out of our control, situations that don't make sense, situations where the report seems to come one right after the other of negative, negative, negative. That the author, that David says to us, that he laid down and he slept. And if God is the same today as he was back then, and he is, because that's what his word says, then I too, you too, can trust in a God that we can have peace, complete peace over every part of our being, knowing that God's got it. And if God is for us, who can be against us? New Life Church, our prayer is that you have that peace this week, that no matter what is going on, that you can lie down each night in peace and sleep, knowing that God is there with you. New Life Church, have a blessed week. Know that we love you, that we're praying for you, and that we are always here for you. God bless.